owe nothing to anyone except to love one another. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. That's from St. Paul's letter to the Romans that we heard in the second reading today. And St. Paul goes on. The commandments are summed up in this saying, namely, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no evil to the neighbor. Hence, love is the fulfillment of the law. Jesus in the Gospel talks about one way that we show love to our neighbor and make sure that we do no evil towards them. Jesus addresses that difficult situation when someone sins against us or hurts us. And his teachings are really very practical and applicable to us. Jesus says, first, go to them directly. In the context of love, and in willing the good of another for their own sake, go to the one who has hurt you, who has, as he says, sinned against you. Name the problem clearly as you see it or as you experience it. When I had been a priest for just over a year, my first assignment was to St. Louis Church. The pastor at the time was Father Peter Sarton, who later became the Archbishop of Seattle, and he's now retired. It was during our second year at St. Louis that the Bishop of Memphis was named as the Archbishop of Indianapolis. Some of you may remember Archbishop Beekline. Well, Father Sarton was elected as the apostolic administrator of the diocese in the absence of the bishop. So that meant in addition to pastoring St. Louis Parish, which was and still is one of the largest parishes in Memphis, he was also responsible for the pastoral care of the whole diocese of Memphis. That year, he and I were the only two priests at St. Louis Parish. And to say that it was a very stressful and difficult time for both of us would be an understatement. We were both so busy that we rarely even saw each other, much less to ever have time to sit down and talk. Well, several times when he and I were at the same event at the parish, on those rare occasions that happened, I would walk up to him and jokingly say, "Hello, I'm Father David. Remind me of your name. I haven't seen you in a while." He would half laugh and roll his eyes. But one day after this particular meeting, and I had made that remark, he pulled me aside, got very serious, and he said, "I have to ask you to not say that anymore. It's hurtful to me that I cannot be as present to the parish as I want. And so it would be really helpful to me if you would not joke about it." When I realized what I'd done, I was joking about this because I was so stressed out as my way of sort of dealing with it. But when I realized what I'd done to him, I apologized. And I never did it again. That was one of the greatest gifts that he could have given me. He had enough respect and love that he came to me directly and clearly stated what I had said, that it caused the problem, and he gave me a chance to change. Jesus says that if you go to the other and they will not listen to you, then and only then do you take it to the next level. You take one or two others with you to talk to the other. Again, Jesus is being very practical by taking one or two persons with you, it helps the other to see that this is not just some kind of personal hang-up that you have. Of course, it also helps you to check yourself. If you cannot find one or two others, it may mean that you have misjudged the situation. Remember, all of this must be done in the spirit of love and reconciliation. If it's motivated by retaliation or retribution, then we're acting in an un-Christian way. The problem is, though, is that often when someone sins against us or hurts us, all we want is to pay them back, or to get retribution, or to express our anger and what a victim that we are. So we skip over step one, and we go to step two. But we go to step two only to gossip or to complain and to blame. That happens far too often in a church family. It's one of those things that causes division and undermines the unity that Jesus desires for his family of disciples. My grandmother, Roberta Graham, spent many years here at St. Mary's Parish. She died over 20 years ago, and I remember a lot of wonderful things about her. But one of the most wonderful things that I remember about her is that she never said an ill word about anybody. And many a time when there was a family gathering, or I was with her, and someone would start to say something. Someone would start with Roberta or grandmother, "Did you hear about so-and-so?" And she would stop them and say, "If you don't have anything good to say about them, I don't want to hear it." It's one of those things that I remember about here and I've never forgotten. Pope Francis once said at one of his Wednesday audiences, he says, "It's so rotten, gossip. At the beginning it seems something enjoyable and fun, almost like a piece of candy. But at the end it fills the heart with bitterness and also poisons us. I tell you the truth," he preached to the crowds in St. Peter's Square. "I am convinced that if each of us would purposely avoid gossip, at the end we would become a saint. It is a beautiful path." "Do we want to become saints?" he asked the crowd. "Yes or no?" The crowd shouted out, "Yes." Pope Francis says, "Yes. Do we want to live attached to gossip as a habit? Yes or no?" The crowd shouted out, "No." So he said, "So we're in agreement. No more gossip." St. Augustine, when he was Bishop of Hippo, used to invite for his brother priest and the monks of the area to come to his home to dine, to have a meal. And right over the table there where they were gathered was a sign that said, "If you speak ill of your brother here, you are not welcome at this table." I've sometimes thought that perhaps one of the only good effects about having to maintain a 6-foot safe zone is that it makes it hard to gossip and to trash our neighbor when we're standing so far apart. St. Thomas Aquinas, when he talks about gossip, he breaks it down into detraction, backbiting, and calumny. And he says that these are usually done in whispers. St. Paul says today, love does no evil to the neighbor. Love owes nothing to anyone except to love another. This is a debt that we never finish repaying because it's based in God's infinite love for each of us. So please, let's stop the gossip. Let us love our neighbor. Let us love and care for their reputation, even those that we disagree with or those that hurt us. And if someone does hurt or offend you, talk with them directly, just like Archbishop Sarton did with me. When we show love for each other, then we are gathered in Jesus' name, and then He is truly in our midst.